I ride a Transalp 750, and as you can see in this video, it does a fair amount of dirt. So naturally, I need to wear a helmet that lets my barista know exactly how Dakar I am. So naturally, I picked the Shoei Z8, aka the RF1400, aka the NXR2, aka Revzilla's standard for a quality street lid. Now I know I just called it a street lid, but if you let me explain, you might also come to the same conclusion that I'm actually onto something here. But first, these are my opinions based on my real experiences, the rides I've done, and the crashes I've had. Choose your own head protection and ride at your own risk. That said, ADV bikes are supposed to be the do-it-all touring bikes for the street and the dirt. So let's start with street, because most ADV riders never see dirt or barely see dirt roads or any literal off-road at all. Here in this video is still a public road, and by definition, not literally off-road. So if you are the vast majority of riders who live on the street or only light dirt roads, an ADV helmet will pretty much never be as quiet as a street-focused helmet. This helmet just so happens to be among the quietest helmets in the world, as you can see with Champion Helmets who test such things. With that being said, let's move to crash safety on the street, where lighter is always safer. Not only is this helmet one of the lightest ECE 2206 helmets in the world, but ignoring helmets made by Climb, no ADV helmet comes close to the weight of a reasonable street helmet. And in the case of a crash, you have the peak, a large protruding duckbill that gets caught up and adds some non-zero amount of torque to your neck. But let's assume you have no crash. How much neck strain do you have from the wind pulling on your high-fashion duckbill? Even on my Shoei Hornet, which is a famously low-drag peak, I found much more comfort after removing the beak and setting it up as what people call a street fighter helmet. So now that we have surprised nobody in saying street helmets are better on the street, what about those of us using our ADV helmets correctly and playing in the dirt? First, we need to address ventilation. I do wish that this helmet had a direct air vent in the chin, rather than just shooting it up on the visor. And you could notice that behind the chin vent is just foam, and a well-placed 6mm drill bit would make a direct air vent. But don't do that. Don't drill holes in your helmet. But in all seriousness, in my experience, the upper vents are as good as my Arai, and the chin vents are comparable to my Hornet. That being said, my Hornet was the worst venting helmet I have ever had as far as the chin. Short of getting wet in the rain, I never noticed if those vents were open or closed. Even on the top, it made little to no difference beyond noise increase. Only when it got super cold outside I could tell that the vents were open, and even then, it was not really a major difference. That's all to say, if max airflow is what you need, give me a moment while I switch this helmet into off-road mode. Open the visor and note that no ADV helmet chin vents will vent more air than just removing the visor from any helmet. And as you can see in the video, my nose is fully in the fresh air. For that, all I will say is that you should watch this video about mouth breathing versus nose breathing and understand that you really should be breathing through your nose, with very few exceptions. But the most obvious gripe I hear you now typing away at your keyboard is, what about goggles? If you are a hardcore dirt rider who lives in the dust, maybe you got me there. Get some goggles. But for the 99% rest of us mortals, I carry tinted and clear safety glasses from Bolle with these gaskets to keep the wind and dirt out while still being breathable and not fogging up. These are not sponsors, and there are no sponsors in this video. I only picked this brand because it fits my face perfectly and I can get them cheaply in Japan. And don't just take my word for it on the safety glasses. Go argue with these two very credible videos from Brett Tax. He knows much more than me and comes to a very similar conclusion. The final issue that is most obvious to all of you is the lack of your big duckbill. Your peak gives you a fashion sense that looks stupid to everyone who is not an ADV or MX rider, but to each their own. Its literal purpose is meant to block the sun from your eyes and low branches and debris. Well, to that I say, how about open the tinted visor to an angle that does both? This dirt ride had lots of leaves, bushes, and branches coming at me, and the visor did a great job protecting me and showed no damage afterwards. Also, as the sun is beating down, a properly tinted visor has done me well working as an alternative to a beak. And I'll remind you, the visor is of course made for impact, and held up just fine for me so far. Your mileage may vary. That all being said, hardcore dirt riders will tell you that ADV helmets lose on almost every front to a real dirt helmet. So get a real MX helmet if you think pavement is nothing but an obstacle on the way to the dirt. Mind you, MX helmets are softer on the inside to absorb the different kinds of knocks and bumps you would get off-road, but not necessarily stiff enough to protect you well in a street crash. Again, you have to make your own safety choices here. So now that I've made all the wonders of this helmet, what are the downsides? Really, beyond the lack of direct chin air vent, the visor. The chin sitting so close to my face, it does make the visor as wide an aperture, both horizontally and vertically, as any ADV helmet I've had, which is a good thing. But since I have to carry two visors, I've gone for the auto tinting one, and the Shoei version is too expensive, so I got this knockoff. The only time it's not been good enough is in direct low sun. For that, I throw the tinted safety glasses in, and problem solved. But maybe it would be a good argument for the GT Air 3. I had the GT Air 2, and it's one of the best helmets I ever had. But with the chin sitting slightly further away from my mouth, I do notice more of the chin, and it obstructs a little more of the view. Again, your mileage may vary. Finally, should you get this helmet? Probably not. Why not, you may ask? If this wasn't an unpaid, unsponsored advertisement for Shoei, what was it? It was a suggestion to keep what you have now. For those in street helmets, open the visor off-road and get some safety glasses. If, however, you already have an ADV helmet, bin the beak and refer to my advice for the street lids. Visor open, safety glasses. And to round this all out, YouTube thinks you'll like this video, but you might also like this one. But till next time, this has been Kai to You Rider. I look forward to your strong opinions in the comment section. Thanks for watching.